It's safe to ride recklessly when you have enough gear on. TSG and Predator helmets are the best helmets for EUC riders.
Say what?
Hip and tailbone protection is not as important for EUC riders. Those, along with two other EUC misconceptions, is what I want to clear up today. So let me tell you more about it. So if you're already riding on an EUC or you're planning to get one, probably you're thinking about the right gear to choose. So in this video, I'll tell you about 5 gear misconceptions that I usually come across, and I'll tell you the solutions to those misconceptions and what you could do instead. Starting off with number 1, gear solves everything. And I was part of this problem in the past too. So I was thinking, well, I went really fast, but then I crashed. So probably the problem wasn't really that I was going at the limit of the EUC and going really fast where I shouldn't. No, I need more gear. The mindset that I have now is that, okay, gear is nice, gear helps you during the crash, but most importantly, you don't want to put yourself into a position where it's more possible to crash. So if you ride fast or if you ride reckless, you try to swerve in between cars, there will be always a possibility to crash. And while you have more gear on, there's still a chance that you might hurt yourself and you might also hurt others. And this is very important. You're not only responsible for yourself if you ride on EUC, you're also responsible to others. Once you get your gear, this is not a green light to start going faster and more recklessly. Because you might think, well, I have all of this gear on, I have my knee pads, I have my elbow pads, I have a helmet with a visor so I don't feel the speed so much now. Cool, now we can just go fast and 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour and everything will be fine. No. So what is the solution here? Well, you don't want to put yourself into a position where it's more plausible to crash. It's better to prevent a crash than to be super geared up and having more crashes.
Quick maths.
It is also very helpful to stay fit, to stretch on a daily basis, adjust your riding style to the mental state and the fatigue state that you're currently in. So the second misconception is that TSG and Predator helmets are the best helmets for EUC riders. And while I tested and saw some of those helmets, I was never riding in one for an extended period of time. Why, you might ask? Well, let's see who actually uses those helmets in the first place. Downhill longboarders, paragliders, those helmets aren't really designed for riding an EUC in a street or off-road setting, and let me tell you why. First of all, those helmets don't have a motorcycle safety certifications. The TSG helmets or Predator helmets just have a downhill mountain bike rating, which I believe also doesn't cover the chin piece. And the chin piece on those helmets is very close to your face. If you push with a hand against this helmet and sort of push this helmet into your face, you will most certainly touch either with your nose or your chin. And this is exactly what would happen if you crash and fall on your face. Another thing that those TSG and Predator helmets don't have is a pin lock. A pin lock is essentially a second layer, which you can actually see here, behind the main visor, which helps you see in the winter. So especially in those winter conditions where it's wet outside, where it's cold outside, with a pin lock, your helmet will not fog up all that much. So if you care about seeing in the winter, you better get a helmet either with goggles or a helmet with a pin lock. Now you could also always just open up the helmet to have more airflow, but then it will be colder. Or you can also have a breath box, but this is also not as comfortable as just having a helmet with a pin lock. I think it's just simpler. Another thing that is really lacking in those helmets is ventilation. And especially from the front area, if you're doing off-roading or if you're doing anything that has some more intense exercising, if it's just warmer outside, there will be a lack of airflow in those helmets. They don't have much ventilation, they're very sleek to have the least amount of drag. And the last thing on my list that lacks in those helmets is a cheap price. Those helmets are expensive. For the price that you're paying for this TSG helmet, you get just a very limited helmet. And while for some cases, like downhill skateboarding, it might be fine, I don't think it's a good purchase for a EUC rider. So what is the alternative here? If you want to get the most protection and the best sort of use case, then you just get a motorcycle, either enduro lid, and those are pretty cheap, well ventilated. You can use the goggles, a great helmet for off-road and on-road use. But if you do a lot more, long distance riding, or you're a courier, you might just consider a helmet, a dual sport helmet with a visor like this one, the Aero Commander Carbon. So with the visor, you will just have a bit more visibility. The third misconception I wanted to talk about is that knee pads save your knees in all cases. Well, first of all, there is different kinds of knee pads. Like you could have knee pads in your pants. And I would say that this is the lowest level of protection that you can have when it comes to knee protection, because those pads might just move around a bit if your pants are not properly sized. And they also just have the smallest surface area to the bottom and to the sides. So there's, two levels here, level 1 or level 2. And while those are, maybe the most comfortable choice, this is not a good option if you're doing a lot of off-roading, or you're typically going between 40 or 45 kilometers an hour on a street on a electric unicycle. So then you have the next level, which is a motorcycle sort of grade knee pad. This is the Liat dual axis, which is the most popular one out there for EUC riders. So this pad is already awesome because it has a lot of tough plastic, so you will just slide on the surface, and it has also a bigger surface area. Now the problem with those pads is that they tend to just go down after a while, so you need to either tighten them up, or like here, trying to put some silicone inside in order for them not to slip down. But this also doesn't prevent them to move to the side. So while this knee pad protects you from the front, or if you just fall on your knees, if you get a side impact, for example, from a car, or you fall and you twist your leg in an unfortunate manner, well, this knee pad will not help you. This protects you from the front, a little bit from the sides, but not against the twisting motion. So if you actually want to have the highest level of protection for your knees, you get one of these. This is a Liat Z-frame, and this is a knee orthosis. Actually, they're called knee braces. I was using the term knee orthosis because that's what they're called in Polish, ortezy. So yeah, every time you hear orthosis, think knee braces. So a orthosis, knee braces, is a bit different to the knee pad, because this actually engulfs your legs from the side. You can see here, my leg would be inside here, so you get more side protection, and those things fit a lot tighter to your leg. So this thing will actually prevent the rotational injuries that you might have when twisting your leg in a weird way or having a side impact. This won't allow your leg to just twist in a weird way because it has 4 individual straps, and those are just have like one elastic piece. They're not as lightly mounted as the dual axes. This is awesome. So if you want to have the highest level of protection, you don't get a knee pad, you get a knee orthosis, knee braces.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Those things are a lot more expensive, but they protect you against those weird twisting motions. They protect you from the side. They're actually really comfy. They don't move around, and they still protect you also from the front. So knee orthosis if you want to have the highest level of protection, both on the street and off-road. The next misconception is that armor or buzzers protect you also in all scenarios. So what I see is that people would be wearing one of those and they're just riding, and they might be also riding fast. So while armor is great and buzzers, there's some limitations to it. And most of them are from high-speed riding. So if you ride at higher speeds, especially on a track, you don't want to just wear this, because what happens is that, while the impact might be prevented by the pads, this stretchy material will just rip apart super quickly, dislocating the protectors and also exposing your skin to road rash and sliding against tarmac. So while this is a great choice if you're going off-road at lower speeds, for higher speed riding or for riding in the city, you need to keep a couple things in mind. First of all, you don't really want to wear this as the outer layer. You want to put a jersey on top of that, or you want to ride with a jacket on top of it. So for example, when I'm riding in the winter now, I have this on me, and on top of that, I have a jacket. So I know if I crash, probably the jacket will go, you know, a bit broken and I would need to fix it or buy a new one, but my skin will be fine. So if I'm riding with a buzzer, you want to put something on top of it. I would just limit myself to go maybe 40, max 45 kilometers an hour with a jersey on, because probably at this speed, either way, you will have some road rash if you're riding in a buzzer. So this thing is actually the best for off-road riding, not really so much riding in the street, unless you put some layers on top of it. Buzzers like this one, which are advertised as being additionally abrasion resistant, but you know, to be honest, I don't think that works all that well. The best actually solution for this is to have a motorcycle jacket, like for example this armored lazy rolling hoodie. So here you have, well, on top you have just the usual layer. This will break, as you can see here, in a crash. But underneath you have a layer of Kevlar, which is like this yellow thing shining through. So both lazy rolling and Beyond Riders gear, or any sort of jacket from your motorcycle store, will have some abrasion resistance. So if you're going in a city, if you do some stuff on racetracks, most importantly, you will want to have something abrasion resistant like a motorcycle jacket. So while, you know, the pads might move around a little bit if you crash, the first impact will be absorbed, and then later the sliding should be prevented with this solid piece of gear. So yeah, don't ride outside just with the buzzer on and nothing on top of it. And the fifth and last misconception I wanted to talk about in this video is that hip or tailbone protection is not as important. And this is not really something that gets talked about a lot. Like, you get your knee pads, you get your elbow pads, armor, and that's it. But most of the time, if you will fall on an electric unicycle, probably it will be your hips or your tailbone, or both, that will suffer a lot. So in order to prevent that, you could either get one of those. Those are protective pants by Liat, and those have hip protection and slightly like, this looks more like, not really tailbone protection, just like underneath. I think this is designed for downhill cyclists, but this thing is not really comfortable. So if you want to go around in the city, you will feel terrible in those. Those don't breathe all that well, and they're not comfortable to wear. If you really want to, you can wear those and feel safe, but my favorite choice for a city is just to have some motorcycle pants. Those are from Broger, Ohio, which have built-in protective pads for your hips and for your tailbone. So if you crash for some reason, or if you fall on your butt, if you spin around while crashing and falling, well, hip protection and tailbone protection is hyper important. All right, so with that said, my biggest conclusion is that, you know, gear doesn't make you invincible, and you need to still be super aware when you're riding your EUC outside in a city or off-road. It pays off to ride slower and to ride safer, to look what the car drivers are doing and possibly communicating with them.
Stop. In the name of the law. Stop.
Waving at them, and prevent crashes, rather than to wear the gear or get additional gear and then be, you know, surprised that you crashed again at a speed of 60 or 70 kilometers an hour. So with that said, I hope that video helped you, and if you're still here, leave a like on it, subscribe to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. See you soon!